Te tino whakamuri kia Anga Whakamua, a series dedicated to sharing stories from Te Tai Tokerau whānau about their own tupuna and kōrero tuku iho of Te Tai Tokerau.
Hoi no, i te timatanga o tēnei kaupapa. A hau he tangata rangahau. Noho nei ki ngā reke o tāo mātua, tāo tupuna pena no i a Ross Gregory mā, i a Uncle Hector mā ne. Nō reira, kua taunga ki tēnei tūmomo mahi, te whakarongo atu ki ngā kōrero ao tāo kaumātua ni. Nō reira, tēnei mea te wiwi, te rangahau, te kōrero tahi nei me ngā kaumātua, ka nui te pai kia hau. Nā ki te ana hau, e kaupapa whakahirahira tēnei. Pono marika, kaupapa whakahirahira tēnei, ko rongoa hau i te aroha, a ngā kaumātua, i te mamai, i te pouri noki, i patere nei i warata kupu. Nō leire, e aroha pai ana hau ki a rātou ngā tini kaumātua ni. Ko pē he te nui o tēnei kaupapa, me te pāngo o tēnei kaupapa ki o tāo tupuna. Ka haure tino rongo nei, putana ki o tātou marae ki hatu raini ne. Nō reira, e anga hirawe ana hau ki te wiwi o tātou kaumātua, me tēnei take nui nei. Ko te awangawanga i te tuatahi, pena he me tika nei taku mahi, me tika nei taku uiui a rātou. I te nui o te kaupapa nei. Hoi no, haere kāroa, ko ki te ea hau, ko ia o ngā tangata i kōrero mai kia hau, kua kite, kua rongo, i tēnei mea te mate, ki roto i a rātou ake whānau. Hora kau tētahi whānau, ki hei wera mate o mua rā i pā ki a rātou. Nō reira, ko te aroha ki roto i a hau, e ki tane i te pouri, nui nei. Te mamai, me wena mea katoa. Nō reira, hara i aua, hara kau waku hi rawe, ka rangirangi raini, i wena kōrero, engari e pāpauri ana ki ngā kōrero e puta mai ki a hau. E ngau marika ana i a rātou, tai noa ki tēnei rā. We started off in Pangaru in the Hokianga, talking to our tupuna, Whina's daughter, Hinerangi, rawa ko Moka ne, beautiful place. We interviewed quite a few people over there in Hokianga. While we were there, you could actually see tamana, I guess, within their rohe, within their wāhi kāinga ne. As we talked to teachers, we talked to whānau members who were actually affected by the past pandemics, whether it was the mate kohi, the TB, or the flu nui, the refa Spanish flu. And actually, when you're there and you're hearing these stories and you're seeing the mamai on their faces, that still affects them today, even though the Spanish flu was 100 years ago now. But in more recent times with the TB and the polio and the rheumatiki and all of those kinds of things, that's still affecting many of our whānau within these small kāinga, wāhi kāinga nei. Homa, e tino rongo ana I te wairua, I te aroha, but you feel their mamai, pono marika, you feel their mamai ne. Hinerangi, tō tātou kuia nei, she talked about the effects of the polio and that kind of stuff on her daughter. Homa, tangi pai hoki, tikana kia tangi. However, you kind of, as they brought back memories from the past, it was like they were reliving some of those times, ne? And there's no doubt that's the reason why they were quite pouri te timatanga, ne? When we were moved from Pangaru, and then we went through to Pukepoto, and we're talking to the nannies there in Pukepoto. It was interesting to hear as they went through their stories and their life memories and how tikanga was adapted or changed, You could see that it weighed heavily on the whānau actually. One of the stories which kind of pā mai ki taku ngākau was the story about one of our nannies who was told, you only have one job, and that is to feed the water to your teina ne. But she was only a young kōtiro, haere karoa, eventually she fell asleep and woke up to the crying of her mother. And she says, oh, what's wrong? Oh, ko mate tō teina. And so she held that as if it was her fault, the reason why she had passed away, you know. And when this nanny of ours eventually passed away, she held that guilt or that feeling, that mamai within her from her childhood right through until she was an elderly lady, you know. And so when you hear those stories, the trauma, I think that was a big thing for me. There was so much trauma from the various types of mate, and not just the refa, the whurunui, you know, but the TB and the polio and the rheumatiki and oh man, all of these different kinds of mate that have affected our people over the years. Yeah, trauma was real. The trauma was real. Also, as we arrived over into Ngāti Hine, Matawaya, talking to Whā Moe, you really got a sense of how things, I guess, needed to change, you know, to save the people. As the mate came into, as we know, that famous kōrero where it affected our tupuna hera, pairata, henare, within Ngāti Hine, and then how that mate spread throughout the rohe, and some say throughout the whole kāinga of Tai Tokerau, and how some of those effects with the trauma of that, plus the whakamā of all of that kind of stuff, still gets passed down to the different whānau. Yeah. And so the one big thing for me was, really they come out of all of it was kia matara tātou, you know, kia matara tātou. Whether it was the Spanish flu, the TB, the polio, meningitis, meningococcus as they called it, the COVID today, whatever it is going to be tomorrow, you know, kia matara tātou.
Te tino whakamuri kia Anga Whakamua, learning from the events of the past for the oranga o Te Tai Tokerau.